And then they fought the Prophet ﷺ very strongly so that he can give up, so that he gives up this message. And in fighting him, they began, after they tried to threaten him, they began to try to seduce him by wealth and by status, because they know they want to pay him to stop this message, because they know that this message frees people from being followers to certain individuals or certain groups who are powerful. So the message of Tawheed was understood by the Arabs of Quraysh who were not Muslims, that this is a message of liberation. This is a message that frees people from following others to having free will, so that they can decide on their own. And also the companions of the Prophet at the beginning understood the message clearly. At the beginning there were no so much worships that were dictated on the Muslims, but it was actually the message of Tawheed mainly. And they understood what is behind this message. And as we all know that when the Prophet ﷺ sent the messengers to different kings and emperors in the world at that time, he sent Rabi'i ibn Amir to King of Persia. And when King of Persia asked him, what are you calling people to? So his answer was, جئنا لنحرر العباد من عبادة العباد إلى عبادة رب العباد. We came to liberate people from worshipping people to worshipping the God of people. So it's a liberation message. ومن ضيق الدنيا إلى سعة الدنيا والآخرة. And from the small space on this earth, on this dunya, on this life, to the wide freedom of this dunya and of the life after. What does it mean that dunya is the same, but actually being linked to materialistic things or individuals or humans make life very small. You are not free. You don't have the ability to utilize your whole strength. That's why he said, وَمِن ضِيقِ الدُّنْيَا, and from the small size or magnitude of this earth, of this life, to how big it is when you have Islam, this life becomes, and the hereafter. وَمِن جَوْرِ الْأَدْيَانِ إِلَى عَدْلِ الْإِسْلَامِ, and from the oppression of different religions to the justice of Islam. Because again, oppression comes from people controlling others. But Islam does not allow this, does not accept this. So this is actually the message of liberation, which is aqidah-wise, creed-wise, is associated with Shahadat al-Tawheed. Now, Islam did not stop at this point, but the worships Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prescribed for us, all of them fulfill this message again. So if you look, for example, at the prayer, the second pillar, Shahadat al-Tawheed was the first pillar, and this is the aqidah thing. If you look now at the second pillar of Islam, upon which Islam is built, is designed, the prayer, the first thing you say in a prayer is Allahu Akbar, God is great. And actually in Arabic this is God is greater as well. So Allah is bigger than any other thing. And this in its own is a liberation message again. We are not under control of anyone. We are not under control that will limit our free will. Our free will is assured. And we have to pay attention to this. If you look at the third pillar, fasting, in fasting we have food and drinks, and we refrain from eating and drinking during the day. So again, we are actually liberating ourselves from following our desires so that we become free. We have control of our desires now. Because it's not always that people control you, but sometimes your own desires control you. So Islam pays attention to free your own desires. You don't follow your own desires. You can have control on them. If you look at Hajj, when you leave your home and you wear very simple dress and you go to dedicate some days to worship Allah, freeing yourself from all things that seduce you on this earth, this is again a message of liberation. So I just gave now some examples of how worships, the important worships, the pillars of Islam are also designed to give you this message of freedom and liberation that will assure you a free will. But the question will come here, Does this mean that you are free in your belief? Does it mean that you are free to accept Islam or not? Certainly yes. And Islam cannot be forced on you. You can't be enforced to accept Islam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in His holy book, وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ, and we showed him both ways, the right way and the wrong way. So actually, if you deny this message, you are exercising the right Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Creator, gave you by denying the message. So Islam did not come to enforce the message on people, but it came to show them the message, and by their own free will they choose. And this is why, of course, in Islam, jihad was not also prescribed to Muslims as to force people to become Muslims, but it was mainly to remove the oppressors who are controlling people from listening to the message of Islam, so that by their own will, not by the will of their leaders, they can think whether they want Islam or not. So that was the idea of jihad, is to remove the oppressors, the dictators who are taking control on people, so that they don't have free will to think whether Islam is a good religion and message to them or not. But in fact, they have the full right to deny the message, and Islam does not enforce its message on people. Now, the scholars of al-usul, the fundamentals of religion, they say that in Arabic, manat al-taklif, the reasons why we are accountable are two reasons. First of such is al-aql, having mind, and second is freedom, having hurriya, freedom. If you actually don't have mind or freedom, you are not accountable. And this is with the consensus of the scholars of al-usul, ulama al-usul. The ayah says, فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. If you like, you believe, you accept the message, you accept Islam. If you don't like, you disbelieve. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ لَآمَنَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كُلُّهُمْ جَمِيعًا أَفَأَنْتَ تُكْرِهُ النَّاسَ حَتَّى يَكُونُوا مُؤْمِنِينَ. And if Allah wants, He will make all the people in this earth mu'mineen, believers. Do you, Muhammad, force people to become them, to make them Muslims? And this is actually a question of blame. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is blaming Muhammad if he thinks that he will force people to become Muslims. Because if Allah wanted them to become Muslims, He would. Allah has His angels and all of them are worshipping Him. So it's not enforcing. It's the free will of the people that will make them choose. So this is why it's the first principle, that without, you can't have a free person that will establish the successive authority aspect, that Allah created us accordingly. There is a hadith that says, إن الله تجاوز لأمتي عن ثلاث الخطأ والنسيان والإكراه. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives, does not account you for things which were actually compulsory on you in three status. If there is, if you forget, absence of mind, al-khata, wa-nisyan, khata is if you do something out of knowledge, if you do something out of knowledge. Wa-nisyan, if there is absence of mind that makes you forget. And al-ikrah. Al-ikrah is actually the opposite of freedom. If you are forced to do something, this does not make you accountable. If you are forced to worship Allah, this is not the right thing. So why freedom is the freedom that makes you have the free will? If the first principle that Islam paid attention to is because without this you will not have free choice. If you don't have free choice, then you are not accountable. It makes sense. And if you don't have free choice, if you don't have free will, you can't utilize your strength and your capacity to fulfill the mission required from you on this earth to become a successive authority. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه.